Welcome to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share. All ideas, thoughts, and statements are those of the guest and the host of Echo Oscar Delta, and not of Navy EOD or Navy as a whole. All right, today we have Shannon Walker, the CEO and founder of Northwest Battle Buddies. Basically, Northwest Battle Buddies provides service animals for veterans that either with PTSD or what have you, but provides them service animals to help in their recovery. Is there, I guess, where did the start of your love of animals and then into getting the idea for starting a nonprofit to help veterans come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my boys would say, well, way back in NAM when I was like 4, I just had to have a dog. I loved animals my whole life. And I got my first dog. Her name was Buttons at the age of like 4 or 5. And it just set me on a trajectory of many animals that I have loved throughout my life. And didn't know that I wanted to be a dog trainer, though. So right now I've been a dog trainer for like 30 years. Oh, wow. And I've had the honor of working with police departments, helping them prepare their dogs for the street in protection work. I've competed internationally in protection work. And then I also, I'm a single mom of twins that served in the military. And so as they were growing up, I needed to be able to provide for them. And so I took my passion and turned it into my purpose. And I developed a for-profit dog training business. And I've trained thousands of pet dogs for people, all breeds, all ages, all needs. And it was in that process of training dogs, having my for-profit business, that I met my first veteran that wanted his dog to be trained to be a service dog. And that's where everything really started with me. It started with my dad. My dad served during the Korean War. Okay. And he taught me to believe in God, family, and country. And when you're in the presence of a veteran, you're in the presence of a hero, even though he never considered himself one. Yeah. And so when Kevin walked into my business, he got my attention, and I assessed his dog, and she was young enough and had temperament enough. And I just did what I do because I trained service dogs before, just never for a veteran with PTSD. And that's where the journey started of me experiencing, working with a veteran, what transformations will transpire in that regard. And so very quickly, I took Sammy, I did what I do, trained the dog for months. And when it came time for Kevin to come in and train with me, that's where things started to change for me. And I learned about the suicide rate. My dad always said freedom wasn't free, but I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. I have a better idea. But when I saw Kevin, I learned about the suicide rate. I learned about in the very last firefight he was in when he was a front gunner in the Army. 6 of his buddies that had survived that firefight had come home and committed suicide on American soil. Kevin had self-medicated for a long time with illegal drugs. He was clean at this point. But I was realizing that he wasn't wearing the uniform anymore, but he was still paying a price for my freedom. And when it came time to work with him with his dog, I saw him find courage inside himself to lead her where he was afraid to go alone. And I saw him do for her what he was unwilling to do for himself. And it was so significant to me and a profound experience. And like I'd mentioned, I've accomplished a lot of things in the dog world. I have trophies. I competed against 13 countries and won. I've done a lot of things. But when I watched Kevin walk away, his final testing, I'm watching him walk away through the parking lot with his head up and his shoulders back with Sammy at his side. And I truly felt like I made a significant difference in the quality of somebody's life. And it wasn't until, so he went back to the VA and he was living his life better, healthier with his holistic approach. And the veterans that knew him before she was his service dog, and then now that she is his service dog, they wanted what he had. And I had a Vietnam veteran show up at my place. And they rode a bus and walked into my office looking for what Kevin had. He wanted a dog, and I didn't have a dog to give him. And I thought, my dad always says, you don't know what you don't know, and he wasn't kidding. But in my simple-minded thinking, I thought if I can just adopt dogs out of shelters, I can train them and I can gift them. And I can say thank you for my freedom. And that was 257 service dogs ago.
Wow.
And the exciting thing is we have not lost one veteran to suicide.
That's
And
awesome.
Kevin and Randy, the Vietnam veteran, he did get his dog. He got a beautiful blue pit bull that I had gotten out of a dog shelter, and we named her Leia, and she served him her whole life. So it was pretty great.
That's awesome. I know quite a few of my friends that have service animals and mainly service dogs, and one of the things that I've noticed in them from before and after is it seems like one of the benefits that they get is now they're not just focused on themselves, they're focused on taking care of the dog, and then in turn the dog is taking care of them. One of the things that it kind of comes to mind as a question is the way you train a dog for just somebody who comes in and says, I want my dog to be more obedient, or to learn just the normal, and then training a service dog. How does that differ for you?
Well, it differs, but it doesn't differ. It's just more. So, service dogs are supposed to, real service dogs are supposed to be non-intrusive into the public. They're supposed to be under a table and you don't even know they're there. We've been on airplanes with 7 dogs, and when it came time to get the dogs up and get off the plane, people didn't even know there were dogs on a plane. Same things happen in a restaurant. That's how it's supposed to be. That's not how society is right now. But there's a tremendous amount of very formal obedience. So we at Northwest Battle Buddies, we train our dogs for 5 months before the veterans even meet their dogs. And that includes strict obedience on leash and off leash, and then also advocating or navigating the outside world in malls, theaters, restaurants, public transportation, all that. So we do the obedience because these dogs have to follow flawlessly, not react in public, not react to a person, just follow their handler and be in tune to their handler. But then we also learn about the disability that these service dogs, the disability that needs to be mitigated. So we teach the dogs to task. And so what are veterans, typically veterans with PTSD, are dealing with hypervigilance. They're dealing with fear of crowds, fear of the public. They are dealing with panic attacks, how to manage those, flashbacks, just social mobility, feeling safer walking a dog into a public place as opposed to walking alone. And so we teach our dogs, night terrors. We have one veteran, he said it so beautifully. He was being interviewed and they said, so do you sleep better now that you have Atlas? It's a chocolate lab that we paired him with. They said, do you sleep better? He says, I don't sleep better, but I'm not afraid to go to sleep. I've known this veteran for a few years, and that was so profound. Can you imagine at the end of your day being afraid to go to sleep? And but he's not afraid to go to sleep anymore. And this is why. He still has nightmares, but Atlas wakes him up before the worst part of the nightmare. Atlas knows him and will wake him up and interrupt that moment. But it's like, as a free American who, my dad served and my twins served in the Army and Marines, this freedom to me truly is a gift. It's a gift. I don't even think twice when I go to sleep. I'm busy thinking about when I go to the store. I don't even think twice about going in and getting milk. I don't think about how many people are going to be there, what time of day, am I going to get stopped? Am I going to have a panic attack and have to run out? What is going to happen that is going to sabotage me and make it to where I cannot complete the mission, right? I do it without even thinking. But our veterans' lives are completely flooded with how do I navigate life with invisible wounds of war that keep their world small, isolated, and that's why we have a suicide rate of 22 veterans a day. So the training has to have excellent obedience. It has to have tons of exposure. It takes a dog that is very temperamentally sound and healthy. And then it also takes a handler that knows how to lead that dog. But then it also takes a dog that has been trained to task for the symptoms of PTSD. And it takes a veteran that knows how to use the tool. Because these dogs are pieces of medical equipment, and it's like they have to learn how to use it and be self-aware. And together with the tool, they learn how to mitigate those disabilities, those symptoms, and they can learn how to finish the mission. That's what our veterans call it. They finish the mission, and instead of running out. So it's very compounded, and there's so many layers. Great question, though, because it takes all of that for this to work.
It's interesting you mentioned some of those things, because I obviously I don't know anything about training, dog. I've had a couple dogs, and I've done my feeble attempts at training them, but never obviously to this level. But one of the things I've noticed is my friends that have service dogs, most of the time they'll go under the table, and they'll always be touching like a part of them. And and I remember I was doing a podcast with a guy, and his service dog was there, and he wasn't visually getting anxious as we were talking, but he stopped and was like, "Oh, I gotta let my dog know it's okay," because his dog started, sensing something that I couldn't sense, and he wasn't even realizing. But I don't know, that's amazing when you're training a dog for the specific PTSD or symptom. I'm not sure what the right word is, but do you ever find that certain dogs or certain breeds are better suited for a veteran that comes in with whatever they have bringing in with them, or are you able to pretty much take any dog that you have and work with them to get them for?
So great question. So we can work with any dogs we have, because that means when it comes time for the veteran to come in, the dog hasn't failed out.
Okay.
So not every dog can do it. And what it does take, the dog has to have a calm brain. First of all, we are not breed specific, but we definitely, through the years, in the beginning, it was all shelter dogs. Young enough and temperament enough. But as we've learned, I mean, we're almost 13 years old now and 257 veterans in. So we've learned what is the most productive, what is the easiest dog to pair, what dog can go to many lifestyles, work environment, children, or whatever. Because we'll do a group of veterans, about 14 veterans. And so we'll start with 16 dogs with 14 veterans. And then we have to pair those dogs. So we look at the lifestyle, we look at everything when it comes to pairing. But in order for the dog to be in tune to its handler's disability and reactions, and when they start to get stressed, they have cortisol dumps, they have adrenaline, and these dogs alert on the chemical changes in the body as one of the tasks, that they have. And so every single one of our dogs will alert on a panic attack, because every single one of our dogs are calm in their brain. They're into their handler. The bond and the unity is profound, to where there's a sensitivity, and that is a must, because if you have a dog with an excited brain that's just busy in his brain and distracted by the public and distracted by everything and you have that, which you see that in public now. But if you have a dog that is like that, there is no way their brain is calm enough and they are in tune enough to be able to sense an odor detection in the veteran's chemical changes. So it's absolutely necessary, and there's multiple breeds that can do it. Granted, there are a lot of breeds that are more genetically inclined for this type of work, and those are the breeds that we are leaning toward, because I don't want to be working with a dog for 4 months and then they fail out, because those are donor dollars lost, that is time lost, and now this is a dog that we've invested in that cannot serve a veteran. And so we do everything we can to make sure that not only do we serve our veterans in the highest level, but that we are really responsible for our donor dollars. These dogs cost us $25,000 by the time we gift them to our veterans, but they are gifted to our veterans. It does not cost the veteran anything to come into our program and receive a dog from us. We are asking for the time and grade of training and everything else, and they absolutely have to qualify, but they're not paying for these dogs. We are asking for donors to do that. And there's a responsibility. There's responsibility all across the board. But we want to make sure that once we have a dog that is starting to come in and we invest, that dog can get through and actually serve a veteran. We do our best to make sure that happens. And we have an extremely high success rate because of our experience and our processes. But at the same time, it still happens. So we do choose breeds, and we make sure the training is such that all dogs can serve our veterans with the symptoms and and mitigate the disability, especially in the greatest areas needed for the veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned, one cost in your team, and I did notice you have a pretty extensive team. Were you able to put that together because of your years of training before that you kind of already knew some people, or did you build that team as you started putting together the nonprofit?
Yeah, I built it. I mean, I was standing by myself in my office and I was like, I just went out. I just was like, if I just, I was making a decision. If I can just adopt dogs out of shelters, I can train them and gift them and say, thank you for my freedom. And I went right out to the shelter. Like within days, they checked out my for-profit business because I've been in the community. I have an excellent reputation. And they let me walk away with 5 dogs. And then I had a place to keep them because I have a professional kennel. I had staff. So I just absorbed the cost. And then I started figuring out how I was going to do it, one dog at a time, one veteran at a time. And as the need grew, the need for the team to grow. I mean, and so my boys, before they went into the military, started Northwest Battle Buddies with me. And so they would be out there, and they've trained dogs their whole life. They've worked in the kennel. So I did have, through my sphere, my community, which was just my home and stuff like that. So I did have some handlers, and then even some of my trainers that had been working with me on the private sector. They went out and we just got together and started doing it. And it's as the nonprofit has grown that we have professionalized everything and put, people in place. And then my boys went into the military, Army and Marines, right out of high school, a month apart. They went overseas. And that was a hit, especially as a single mom. But I wouldn't change it for the world, and I'm so proud of them. But when they came out and they have executive seats in Northwest Battle Buddies. In fact, the Marine, Jared, is the executive director for Canine Operations and Veteran Instruction. He runs that. And then we've recruited, as we've grown, as the need has happened, we have recruited members of our team across the board in donor relations, veteran relations, operations, in the office, everything. And it just keeps growing. But when you look at the volume that we do, we actually have a very small team that works extremely hard to make it all happen. And then my other son, we did 2 enlistments. He's actually now in donor relations and is doing that. So that's pretty great. Now they're veterans, serving veterans, and they come from a different place now that they have that experience where before they went in, they adopted my belief system. They went out and served their country, and now they continue to fulfill their own belief system, and they serve veterans and work alongside me. So I really have every mother's dream when it comes to that. So.
Yeah, that's great to be able to have family working and sharing the passion and pushing forward for the same goals.
Yeah. Well, really quick, that's where you talk about legacy. A lot of times people say, well, did you start Northwest Battle Buddies because of your dad? No, I didn't. It's kind of like twofold. I didn't start it because of my dad, but I did start it because of how he raised me. It really is his legacy. He was an incredible patriot. He couldn't, and it's not because he spoke it out all the time. It's because he modeled it. He couldn't have his hand over his heart for the national anthem or the Pledge of Allegiance without tears in his eyes or a quivering chin. He just, he would go shake a veteran's hand, but was always very uncomfortable when anybody shook his. He was just, at 9/11 at the age of, I don't know, I don't know how old he was, but he wanted to put his uniform on. He wanted to go fight. He was a fighter. He raised me to never quit and to stand for what I believe in. And I believe in this country, and I believe in the men and women that have provided this freedom. And I was able to take my passion of training and loving dogs and the experience, and I turned it into my purpose. And I'm able to say thank you in a very significant way. And we've built a team that helps us do that. And I get to do this. And that's the thing. It's like so many people wake up and they have to go do, I get to do this. Now, there's a backside to the blessing. It's hard. And there's a lot of tears shed, whether it's happy or sad. But the fact is that we're making a significant difference in men and women's lives who are the most deserving that walk among us. And I'm so grateful for that honor to do.
I've worked with a couple different nonprofits, just kind of on the peripheries, not as any direct part, but just assisting in things. And I've seen it doesn't matter whether it's a small or a big nonprofit.
Right.
I have every single time seen what you said is 100% true. It's hard. What were some of the struggles as you were getting the nonprofit put together to with the goal of helping as many people as you can?
Yeah. So that's another great question. There's a lot of layers to that. Number one is the learning curve.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. And where you're ignorant, the areas that you are ignorant in, you will suffer in. And so we have some lessons that we don't need to learn twice. Donor dollars. I thought everybody would I thought people surely will pay for these dogs. It'll be so easy. Who doesn't love? No, it's that is its own expertise. COVID just was, oh wow, we survived it, and we continued to serve veterans through it, but not without a lot of difficulty and so many tears shed, having to put veterans on hold, having to cancel classes, having to sell dogs that were not trained yet and not invested in, but we had to sell dogs, just all of that. But there's a price you pay for success. I mean, and success isn't easy. And it's not about we want to be successful. No, we want to make a difference. We want to serve, and they need us, So all of what it has taken to be successful and to grow and to do what we do, there's not one place that was the hardest. I will tell you, dog training was the easiest. That has never been the issue. Knowing how to do what we needed to do to serve our veterans, or how to educate our veterans or teach our veterans, that has always been the easiest part. It's everything else that a 501c3 has to do, what we have to jump through, and then also the donor relations and the sustainability. Sustainability. We have over 125 veterans waiting on our list at the tune of $25,000 a dog. It's like, how do you wake up and see that every morning and go, but it's just one veteran at a time, or 14 veterans at a time, and we just keep. It's a machine. It takes. When we start, because we do shelter dogs now still, but we also do purpose-bred dogs, English Labs and English Cream Golden Retrievers. So it takes us, the minute a puppy is born, that starts the 18 months it takes from when that puppy is born before it goes to the hands of a veteran. And so it's not anything like when COVID hit, we couldn't just shut our doors and wait it out. We had to train, and we had a momentum, and we had 60, 70 dogs in the pipeline that we owned that were now at a standstill. We had veterans that had already gotten their reasonable accommodations, and they got time off work, and they got their plane tickets. They're getting ready to come, and we had to put everything on. It was extremely challenging, but we just didn't quit, and we didn't close our doors, and we refused to do that, because that was a discussion. I'm like, my dad raised me, you don't quit, and we didn't quit. Yeah. And we tell our veterans, don't you quit, so it takes what it takes across the board with everything that a nonprofit brings and requires. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, because it seems like nowadays when success is almost like a bad word, because it's almost always associated with a dollar value, as opposed to like in the nonprofit. And for this, success is providing the dog to a veteran, and then, like you said, having that having 257 dogs with a veteran, and then no suicides from that. That's you can't put a price on that. That is awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that. The thing is that we've got 125 veterans waiting to come in. We have 257, is that right? 257 veterans that are out there with dogs that they recertify every year. They come back every year and they retest. They don't go through 5 weeks, but they retest. And then they need help. And then there's this, and there's the aftercare for the life of the team. And when you look at the load that the Northwest Battle Buddies team as a whole, how we serve them, how we meet their needs, how the sustainability of all of that, it ends up being this. Now, because of our SOPs, because of operations, everything else, it's extremely systematic. We're very, very good at what we do, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't take a lot of work and sacrifice. And it is. And our KPIs our key performance indicators. Yes, we have to have the money to come in to pay for the dogs, but it's the lives that are coming off the list and now being served. It's the fathers, the mothers, the sons and the daughters, the sisters and the brothers. It's all of them now finding a holistic way to move forward in their life and educating the family, because we're not just talking about one individual. We're talking about families and communities that are affected. Over 8,000 veterans a year take their life. It is a silent epidemic that it is we the people who need to stand up in the gap for our veterans. Yes, the government needs to do more. They need to pay for these dogs, but we're the ones that are enjoying our freedom. And we all have a way to help. We all have something we can bring to the table to bring value to a veteran's life and and their family's life. And it takes shows like this. So thank you, and awareness and having the conversation, because you know as well as I do, there's not one veteran that will ask for anything.
Yeah,
they aren't going to ask. So we have to be their voice. And so we work really hard to do that.
Speaking of not asking, and then how does a veteran, I guess that'll be two questions. Generally, how do they find out about Northwest Battle Buddies? Mm-hmm. And then how do they go and go through the process to potentially get on the list to receive a dog?
Absolutely. Great question. So, well, we have 257 missions in action walking around the United States right now. So we don't advertise. Yeah, we have our social media and we have that kind of stuff, but we never do a call to veterans. We have 125 on our list minimum right now. That was the last time I checked. I know it's more. That find us through the VA, through word of mouth. They saw a veteran out there with one of our dogs, or they happen to run across our social media page or whatever it might be. You know, I'm doing interviews like this a lot. And so maybe they hear, which I want them to, because I don't want a veteran to lose hope and to feel like they're alone. I want them to know there is help out there and that we're not just another organization that's going to let them down. We're not. And so veterans come through us organically because they saw one of our veterans and dogs, or they happen to hear about us. But we don't go out recruiting, trying to make our list longer. That happens naturally. But veterans, in order to apply for a service dog, is people just go to the website, northwestbattlebuddies.org. They go to apply for a dog, and then they fill it out online. We have an amazing veteran liaison. She's a former Marine, and her husband has one of our dogs. He served in the Corps, 22 years. He was a Master Sergeant in the Marine Corps. He has one of our dogs, a beautiful golden retriever named Gabriel. She is our veteran liaison. Within 24 hours, she is contacting that veteran saying, hey, sister, hey, brother, I got you. And she's walking them through it. And she's helping them through all of the stuff that we need to get from them. Because their lives, and they have to be at a place in their life that they can handle responsibility 24/7, 365 days a year. And so some of our veterans might come and they're wanting a dog, but we would actually be doing them an injustice by providing one, because they just aren't in a place to succeed, or the burden, it would just be too much with where they're at in their life. So we qualify them through all of that. And it's very clear what is qualifying and disqualifying on the website. And Jonna and members, and Kayla on my team, they help them, they walk them through it and serve them so they can get all of their documents in. And then they find out if they're either completely qualified or not, and then they go on the list and they wait. Now, I will say, you would think with 125 veterans on our list, man, it's going to be 2 years. Why would I even try? Because guess what? When we do a group of veterans, of 14 veterans, that means they have to get everything in their life ready to go to come to Battleground, Washington, and do 5 weeks of training. Well, we have some veterans that will get their applications in, get everything in right away, and they'll be here on site in 2 months. Because all the other veterans that Jonna may have reached, they're not in a qualified place yet, or they can't get a reasonable accommodation. They can't get leave from work. It's just not, there's so many moving parts. When we're doing a group of 14 veterans all at one time, you know, I mean, that's a big feat to get them in front of us, to actually pair them with their dog and to give them their training. So I don't want any veteran to ever lose hope thinking, man, I have to wait 2 years. What's the point? Well, first of all, 2 years is going to go by anyway. Yeah. So you might as well get on the list, but you might get in here in 3 months. And so just advocate for yourself and get started. That's what it takes, is let's get the process started, and then let us serve you as soon as we can. So.
You said the groups of 14. Do you find that having a handful of veterans together
Yeah.
actually enhances the process?
It it absolutely does. Another great question. So some organizations don't, they only serve post 9/11. Northwest Battle Buddies serves all veterans from all conflicts. In fact, our 100th dog went to a Vietnam veteran. And I love all of our veterans, but I am most fond of our Vietnam veterans when they are in here. And that particular veteran, he's like, I thought my life was over. And now it's just beginning. I mean, he just, it changed his life. And it's sad that it took so long for something like that to happen. But yet he made it here, and he's living his life now with his service dog. So, but the camaraderie is, it's amazing to see and to watch how they support each other, how they advocate for each other, how they protect each other. You know, we have veterans that'll be like, because it's tough. The 5 weeks is tough. Some veterans don't make it through. They quit, or it's rare, but sometimes they get asked to leave. They have to have impulse control. It's stressful, all of that, you know. But for the most part, if we don't, if the organization, if we don't finish with 14, it's somewhere down the line they sabotage themselves and they quit, or and because and I tell our veterans the battle, the most important battle that we cannot fight for you is the battle in your mind.
Absolutely.
And it will always be the greatest battle you're ever in, because you won't know you're in it. And so a lot of our veterans will say, hey, you know, whether it's a male or a female, whatever it is, but they were like, I won't quit if you don't quit. So there are some veterans, they partner up and they make a commitment to each other that they're going to help each other get through. And what's so awesome is when you see a Vietnam veteran mentoring some young guy who's 24 years old in here, and he's wanting a dog. And you see all that, and you'll see men rise to the top, or just men, males or females, but they'll rise to the top, and they kind of take care of the whole group. They advocate for the whole group. They'll develop communication systems for the whole group. We're coming up on a weekend, and it's especially difficult for the ones that are out of town and they're in a hotel, and they're like going to be sitting in a hotel now for 2 days by themselves. Okay, who's going to be alone? What are we going to do? And they watch out for, they take care of each other just like they would have before. And it's because it's in the culture. And for me to be able to watch it and be a part of it, it's extremely humbling to see that kind of dedication and that kind of service, maybe even years after being out. But then these are relationships that continue. And we tell our veterans, when you come into Northwest Battle Buddies, you're part of our family. And they're developing strong bonds, and they help each other get through. And they commit to each other, they aren't going to quit. And sometimes that's what keeps them in. And they finish and they walk away with their service dog. And it's amazing what it takes. But I tell them it takes what it takes, and there's sacrifice on all sides when it comes to doing this. And our veterans, even though these dogs are gifted, they earn these dogs. Yeah. They earn them, because coming in here and training with us every day with what we require is no small thing. And our veterans will be like, amen to that. It's the truth. But they're extremely proud when they walk away, because they did earn it. And now they're part of a family, and they're proud. They're really proud.
Yeah, something that's come up on the podcast quite a bit when talking to different veterans, well, guys that I know, and then others that I've just met because of doing the podcast, is what you said. There's so many guys want that, they know that they need to make a change, do something to get themselves mentally ready. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's hard to make that actual click and start moving forward. And yeah, unless you as the individual make that decision and actually move forward, then I had never even thought about that, but that makes perfect sense, that unless you're ready mentally to sacrifice and go through the struggles of going out and doing everything that's required, it would be a disservice to the individual and the dog. But also it's one of the things that I have seen that veterans need is just a challenge sometimes. And mm-hmm. sometimes that's getting ready to do something like this, is that challenge that they need to get ready to go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I tell our veterans, if you're why, so it's like we always talk about the why. We always talk, why are you here? Because if your why isn't big enough, you will quit.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors says, if your why does not make you cry, then the price will be too high. And think about, because that's what they have to focus on, not the struggle, not the fear. What am I going to win? What's my win? What am I going to gain? And but think about it. We're asking these veterans to go everywhere they don't want to go. We're asking them to do, and it's required to do everything they don't want to do. And they're walking into the unknown. And we tell them, you got to trust the process. You know, please just trust the process. You know, and when they come in, you know, they don't necessarily know what to expect, and they don't know it's going to be that difficult. But the fact is that, and so sometimes, and unfortunately, I mean, they want to, they walk away. It's just not what I thought it was going to be, or they weren't mentally strong enough. And, you know, I tell our veterans when they come in, you're not a victim. We're not going to treat you like one. We just have a path forward that you haven't invested in yet. And however you used to, your coping skills and however you used to, whether it's, and when I say self-medicate or however it was, I'm not necessarily talking about illegal drugs or alcohol or anything like that, because they have to be clean and free from all that when they come in. But my point is this, however you used to, whatever your coping skills were before you came in, however you, what is the word I'm looking for? Self-medicated. You cannot do that now with a service dog at your side. You have to learn new skills. And it really is. And it's such a mindset issue. And that's across the board for anybody in any industry. But you know, it's you know, a lot of the veterans, like I said, they don't know what they're coming into. And so we try to prepare them, and we try to set them up with these kind of conversations. And we talk about the why. In fact, when they come into our program, before they've even met their dog, they are putting in writing, this is what I want to do in my life with my service dog that I cannot do now. And then after they graduate, we follow up, and they are documenting that they are out using the tool, because these are pieces of medical equipment. They are out with their service dog after they've graduated what they said they wanted to do that they couldn't do before they even met their dog. They're out there living their life, breaking barriers, living new lives, having new relationships. And it's just really incredible. And it didn't start out like that for Northwest Battle Buddies. I was just giving dogs. We were training the veterans, and we were just doing it. But then starting to learn what it takes to validate the tool, seeing, you know, developing a dialogue and a framework around what it really takes to succeed from maximum impact and change, you know, in these lives. And it doesn't happen by accident. Everything is intentional for an outcome to exceed expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's good to see, you know, it's good to see where you've come and been able to adapt so that the you know, again, success in our terms being the positive word of it, getting a veteran a service animal that will benefit their life. It's getting even more a greater chance of success by putting these implementations in that you have. I enjoy hearing that. So we've already talked kind of about how to find northwestbattlebuddies.org. What's your Instagram? Is it just Northwest Battle Buddies?
So sorry. Yeah, it's Northwest Battle
No,
Buddies.
that's fine. Okay, I'll find that and throw that on.
So when you're smart, you hire your weaknesses, and I am not. Yeah, but it is Northwest Battle Buddies all spelled out. So I'm not sure what the Instagram is, but yeah.
Perfect. No, that's great. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about either the program or the nonprofit, or just anything that you would like to share on this?
Well, thank you for asking that. The one thing I just want veterans to know, and I want to say something to veterans first. It's like, if, you know, the thing is that there is speaking directly to veterans, there are people out there that absolutely appreciate and value everything that you've done and your sacrifice, and you're not forgotten. And there are organizations that aren't going to let you down. And a service dog isn't for everybody, but it might be for you. So if you've lost hope, or you are a family member that you know of a veteran that maybe has lost hope, check us out Fight for them. If you're a veteran, advocate for yourself. We are here to serve. We don't quit. We are just beginning. People ask me all the time, what's going to be happening for Northwest Battle Buddies? What's on your radar? More. The word is more. More dogs, more veterans, more donors, more everything, more impact, more influence, and I just want you to know we're here for you. Don't quit. Don't quit. You're valuable. You are cared for. You are appreciated. You are honored, and you are respected. What I would say to donors, any free American, we need your help. Northwest Battle Buddies needs your help. We have a monthly giving program, Operation Never Quit, where people can donate monthly, where we can pay for these dogs so we can gift them and change the lives. And every single veteran that we have gifted a service dog to will tell you, this dog has saved my life. It is our responsibility as we the people. We need to make a difference and stand in the gap and fight for our veterans like they fought for us. And we need to make a difference, and we need to not quit on them, and we need to advocate for them, and we need to bring our gifts and talents, and we need to make a difference, because freedom isn't free, and we're so close to losing it. Where would every decision we make in our day begins with freedom? If we were in a country, if we were in a communist country, a country that didn't have freedom, one of our executives came from Romania, and his dad went on a 27-day hunger strike to get his family out of communism. He was a lefty, and he couldn't even write left-handed. They would slap his hand and crush his knuckles and force him to write right-handed. They tell you what profession you're going to have. They tell you what your job's going to be. He waited in lines as a child for bread and everything else. There is no I'm telling you, we live in the most blessed nation, and it is blessed, and we live in it free because of the men and women. So if I sound like it's like she goes on and on, because it matters.
Absolutely.
So if you are blessed to live in America at the sound of my voice, please help us. NorthwestBattleBuddies.org. We need donor relations. We need help. We need puppy fosters. And we need to advocate and be the voice for our veterans who have provided our freedom, because it isn't free. And they still are paying a price. They may not be putting the uniform on, but they're still paying a price. And we need your help. So thank you. NorthwestBattleBuddies.org.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your mission, and yeah, hopefully, we can get some more people to donate and help more veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's just more. It's just more. And you just keep on going. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share.